I remember the smell of the earth after the rain. That's the first memory that surfaces when I think of my childhood. My name is Rose and I'm 80 years old now. We lived in a small, weathered house at the edge of town, surrounded by woods so thick that the sunset disappeared behind the trees long before night actually fell. It wasn't perfect, but it was home. And my mother, she was everything. She wasn't just a mother. She was laughter on a cold morning. She was warm bread fresh out of the oven. She was the safe place I always ran to when the world outside, even the world inside, felt too heavy for me to carry. My grandfather lived with us too. He was my mother's father, a man with a voice like gravel and hands as rough as bark. When I was very small, I thought he was just gruff. That's what my mother called it, his just gruff, sweetheart. He'd been through things, she said. War, maybe. Loss, probably. But there were moments, little cracks, when a strange kind of coldness would bleed out of him, and even in my innocence, I could feel it seep into the room. I never feared him then. Not really. Not the way I would later. At first, life was simple. Mornings meant pancakes. Afternoons meant muddy shoes and scraped knees. Nights meant stories on the porch swing, Mama's arms wrapped tight around me as she told me about a world full of possibilities. But life has a cruel way of changing when you least expect it. The year I turned 11, Mama got sick. It started small, coughing, tiredness, and then it became something bigger, something scarier. The doctors said words I didn't understand, long words that sounded sharp and final even though I didn't know what they meant. I remember the hospital smell. The way Mama's hands felt thinner each time I held them. The way her smile stayed even when her body was betraying her. She never told me she was dying. I think she wanted to protect me. But the day came anyway. A gray, hollow day when the world felt like it caved in on itself, and suddenly, my mother was just gone. I didn't cry right away. It was too big. Too heavy. Crying would have made it real. The house felt different without her. Quieter. Colder. The walls seemed to breathe differently, like they, too, knew she was missing. That's when my grandfather changed. At first, it was small things. He stopped speaking gently, if he ever had. He stopped eating at the table. He started drinking more, bottles hidden in corners, in the laundry room, behind the old wood stove. I didn't know what loneliness looked like back then, but now I realize it was him, a man hollowed out, rotting from the inside with no one left to keep him human. And then, one night, it happened. The night that would become a wound so deep it would never fully heal. It was raining that night. Not the soft, summer rain that used to lull me to sleep. No. This was a cold, mean rain, the kind that slapped against the windows like fists. The kind that made the house groan with every gust of wind. I sat curled up in Mama's old armchair, wearing one of her sweaters, even though it was much too big for me. I wrapped myself in it like armor, like if I could just pull it tight enough, maybe I could pretend she was still here. Grandfather had been drinking again. I could hear the bottle clink against the table every so often, a sharp, angry sound that made me flinch each time. He was muttering to himself, words slurred and low, but I couldn't make out what he was saying. I tried to make myself small. Tried to disappear into the worn fabric of the chair. Maybe if he forgot I was there, he would stumble off to bed and I could survive another night untouched. But the universe wasn't listening. I heard his boots first. The heavy thud of them crossing the wood floor toward me. I kept my eyes down, tracing patterns on the sleeve of the sweater, praying he would pass me by. He didn't. He stopped right in front of me. The smell of whiskey hit me like a punch. I held my breath. "Get up," he said. His voice was different. Not loud, not a yell, but low, tight, and somehow more frightening than if he had screamed. I stood up, because that's what I had been taught to do. Obey. Don't make it worse. He grabbed my arm, not roughly at first, but firmly enough to let me know there was no choice. He pulled me toward the back of the house, Mama's old room, the one he had claimed after she died. My feet dragged. I wanted to resist, to run, but where would I go? It was dark outside. The woods were endless. And he was the only family I had left. Inside the room, the light from the hallway barely reached us. The shadows swallowed everything. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. He sat on the edge of the bed and yanked me toward him. You think you're better than me, he slurred, spit flying from his mouth. Just like your mother. Thought she was too good. Thought she was too pure. I shook my head, tears burning the corners of my eyes. No, sir, I whispered. My voice barely carried. He sneered at me, a twisted mockery of a smile. Then his hand shot out, faster than I could react, and the slap cracked across my face so hard my vision blurred. I stumbled back, crashing into the dresser, knocking a glass to the floor. It shattered, pieces scattering like tiny stars across the wood. You listen to me, he growled, standing up, towering over me. You're mine now. There ain't no one coming to save you. He reached for me again. And this time, it wasn't just a slap. It was worse. His hands became claws. Grabbing. Pulling. Tearing at the sweater, at me. I screamed. I couldn't help it. A ragged, broken sound that ripped from my throat, echoing off the walls. But no one was there to hear. No one was coming. He dragged me down onto the bed. I fought, God, I fought, kicking, scratching, trying to wriggle free. But he was too strong. And the alcohol made him cruel. Pain blossomed, sharp, white-hot, and I screamed again, hoarse, helpless. Tears blurred everything. The room spun. My mother's sweater ripped. And the little pieces of myself, the parts that still believed in safety, in family, shattered alongside it. I don't remember how long it lasted. It felt like hours. It felt like an entire lifetime compressed into a single, endless moment of pain and betrayal. When he was finished, he staggered back, breathing heavily. He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand and looked down at me like I was something disgusting he had stepped in. Then he left the room. Just like that. The door slammed behind him. And I was alone. I lay there for what felt like forever. Staring at the cracked ceiling, my body aching, my heart bleeding from wounds no one could see. It was the first time I truly understood what it meant to be powerless. To be trapped in a nightmare you couldn't wake up from. I clutched the torn remains of Mama's sweater against my chest and cried until there were no tears left. Outside, the rain kept falling. And inside me, something precious, something innocent, died. The days after that night blurred together like a fever dream. I moved through the house like a ghost. I barely ate. I barely spoke. I learned how to shrink myself, how to fold my body into corners and closets, how to disappear when I heard his footsteps on the creaking floorboards. I was terrified all the time. The fear lived under my skin, humming in my bones. Every sound, every door creaking open, every bottle clinking on the kitchen counter, made my heart lurch like a rabbit ready to bolt. But there was nowhere to run. No one to tell. Who would believe me? A scared little girl against the man everyone thought was a grieving grandfather. I had no proof. No witnesses. Just the pain, festering inside me, making me sick from the inside out. Some nights, he would ignore me. He would pass out drunk in his armchair, mumbling curses under his breath. Those nights were small mercies, stolen moments where I could sleep, clutching a pillow tight against my chest, whispering Mama's name into the dark like a prayer. But other nights, he would come for me. He was always rougher then. Always angrier. As if my existence was a constant reminder of what he had lost, and he wanted to punish me for it. There were bruises. On my arms, my ribs, the back of my neck. I tried to hide them under layers of clothes, though there was no one left to notice. Sometimes I would sit in the bathroom, locking the door, staring at my reflection in the cracked mirror. My face looked different somehow, older, harder. The girl I used to be was slipping away, replaced by someone hollow-eyed and silent. I would trace the bruises on my skin with trembling fingers and wonder if I was disappearing from the inside out. If one day, I would look in the mirror and see no one staring back. One afternoon, a rare day when he had passed out early, I found myself in the attic. It was hot and dusty, the air thick with the scent of old wood and forgotten things. I wasn't looking for anything. I just wanted somewhere he wouldn't think to look for me. I stumbled across an old trunk, one Mama had kept, filled with her childhood things. I opened it, desperate for anything that still smelled like her, that still carried her voice. Inside, I found a photo album. Pictures of her when she was young, laughing, running through fields, standing next to a much younger version of the man who now haunted my nights. They looked happy. But photos can lie. Tucked between two yellowed pages was a letter, a crumpled piece of paper in Mama's handwriting. If anything ever happens to me, it began, please know I tried. I tried to break the cycle. I tried to give you something better. My hands trembled so hard the paper shook. Forgive me if I failed. Tears blurred the words. I pressed the letter against my heart, rocking back and forth in the dim light, feeling like she was right there with me. Mama had known. Maybe not exactly what would happen, but she had known the danger. She had fought to protect me. And now, she was gone, and I was left to face the monster alone. But the letter lit something inside me. A tiny, flickering flame of anger. Of defiance. I wasn't nothing. I wasn't his to destroy. Mama had wanted better for me. I had to survive, if not for myself, then for her. That night, when he came for me again, I fought harder. I bit. I kicked. I screamed until my throat was raw. It didn't stop him. If anything, it made him angrier. But it planted a seed. I realized he wasn't invincible. He could be hurt. He could be exposed. I just had to find the right moment. I started watching him carefully. Studying his patterns. Noticing when he was too drunk to move quickly, when he forgot to lock the doors, when he passed out so deeply nothing could wake him. I began to plan, tiny, desperate plans of escape. It wasn't hope exactly. Hope felt too big, too dangerous. It was survival. A cold, sharp thing that whispered, not yet. Hold on. Find your moment. And I did. But not before things got worse. Much worse. It happened on a night colder than any before. Even though it was early fall, the wind outside howled like a living thing, slamming branches against the house, rattling the windows. I was curled up in the corner of my room, a makeshift mattress on the floor, a threadbare blanket pulled around my shoulders. My body was bruised, sore from the last beating, and my spirit felt almost too small to even hope anymore. I remember staring at the door that night. Waiting. Dreading. The clock ticked on the wall, each second a hammer strike against my chest. And then I heard it. The heavy, dragging steps. The creak of the hallway floor. The muffled curse under his breath. I squeezed my eyes shut, willing myself to disappear. Maybe tonight he'll pass me by, I thought. Maybe he'll be too drunk to remember. The door opened. The cold hit me first, a blast of whisker-tainted air, and then his shadow filled the room. "Get up," he barked. I shook my head, too scared to speak. He crossed the room in 2 strides, yanked the blanket off me, grabbed my wrist so hard I felt something pop. Pain shot up my arm. I cried out. A sharp, broken sound. He dragged me to my feet, then shoved me toward the bed. My body was too weak to fight anymore. I stumbled, falling hard against the mattress. I don't remember all the details of what he did that night. Some memories are too broken, too blooded to piece back together. I just remember the coldness in his eyes. The absence of humanity. As if I wasn't even a person anymore, just something he could hurt to fill the black hole inside him. When he was finished, he left me half naked, bleeding, sobbing into the tattered sheets. The door slammed. And I lay there, in the dark, and something inside me finally broke. Not cracked. Not bent. Broke. I stopped crying. The tears dried up. The fear faded into something else, a kind of numbness so deep it scared me more than the pain. I felt myself slipping away, disappearing into the dark places inside my mind where nothing could hurt me anymore. If I just stay here, I thought, I won't have to feel anything ever again. Maybe if I'm quiet enough, still enough, I'll stop existing altogether. But somewhere, deep inside, another voice whispered. Get out. Survive. For Mama. It was faint. Flickering like a candle about to die. But it was there. And somehow, I held on. I don't know how long I lay there. Minutes. Hours. Eventually, when I heard the unmistakable rumble of his snoring down the hall, I knew I had a chance. Maybe my only one. I moved carefully, my body screaming in protest with every step. I crept across the house, avoiding every squeaky board I knew by heart. The front door was deadbolt, he always locked it before passing out. But the back window in the laundry room. I had noticed last week the latch was broken. I reached it. Pried it open with trembling hands. The wind slapped me in the face, icy and brutal. But freedom smelled sweeter than any cold could hurt. I climbed out, falling hard into the wet grass. I didn't wait. Didn't stop to think. I ran. Barefoot. Bleeding. Running like the devil himself was behind me. The woods loomed up around me, black and endless, but I didn't care. Better to face whatever monsters lived out there than the one I knew waited at home. I don't know how long I ran. Time didn't make sense anymore. Eventually, through the trees, I saw lights. A neighbor's house. Distant but reachable. I staggered toward it, every step feeling like it might be my last. When I finally reached their porch, I pounded on the door with what little strength I had left. It opened. Mr. Thompson, a gruff old man I barely knew, stood there, blinking at me in shock. His wife gasped when she saw me, bloody, barefoot, wild-eyed. They didn't ask questions. They pulled me inside. Wrapped me in a blanket. Called the police. Everything after that was a blur, sirens, questions, flashing lights. But one thing was clear. I was never going back. My grandfather was arrested that night. He screamed and cursed as they dragged him out in handcuffs, his face twisted in rage. I didn't go to the trial. I couldn't bear it. But I know he was convicted. Sentenced to decades behind bars. Justice, they called it. But justice doesn't erase the scars. It doesn't heal what's broken inside you. The Thompsons took me in temporarily. Then I was placed with a foster family. It wasn't easy. I flinched when people raised their voices. I jumped when anyone touched me. Sleep became a battleground, filled with nightmares so vivid I would wake up screaming. Therapy helped, slowly. Painfully. Piece by piece, I started to rebuild myself. To believe, just a little, that maybe I wasn't ruined beyond repair. I never forgot Mama. Sometimes I could almost feel her, sitting beside me in the sun, whispering in my ear. "You're stronger than you know." And maybe I was. Maybe I still am. It's been years now. I'm older. Stronger. Different. There are still bad days. Days when the memories creep up like smoke under a door. Days when the weight of it all feels too heavy to bear. But there are good days too. Days filled with laughter. With small victories. With the knowledge that he didn't destroy me, not completely. I carry the scars. They're a part of me. But they don't define me. What defines me is that I survived. That I fought. Even when I was broken, bleeding, terrified, I fought. And if you're reading this, if you've lived through your own darkness, please know, you are not alone. You are not ruined. You are not defined by what was done to you. You are a survivor. And survival is its own kind of victory. Thanks for listening and please subscribe to our channel for more fascinating stories.